So carrying on with this little game that I've got with the player currently just kind of runs around the screen. Last video I put in some more platforms. I actually wanted to tweak their position a little bit. I'm going to make this one like 400 or something. So first platform, and then I forgot to rename that as second platform. I want to do some shooting, so what I've gone to look at is the example code and try to pick which one would be most relevant. This one shoots bullets upwards. This one aims and shoots bullets, I think, based on mouse position. I think this one is going to be a little bit simpler. This is the one we use in class anyway. So of course it is a bit different. We've got the skill here is picking out what is relevant to us and then modifying it to our needs. That's really the point of this video. Because this one, I think the position of the player is just based on mouse movement. So on mouse motion, it just positions the player sprite wherever the mouse actually is. Useful little tweak of being able to do that. And also, instead of having the you shoot your bullet when you click a key, which is what we're probably going to want. This does it on when you click a button. If you click a button, it shoots the bullet. But we can see we've got some stuff to do with bullets here. I can see the word bullet all the way through. I can see some stuff to do with bullets here. So let's go right up to the top and sort of gradually work our way through. We've got a bullet list in the init, and that's a sprite list. Okay, that's good. That's worth knowing. And there's nothing else in the init or setup relating to bullets, which makes sense because we're not shooting bullets at the very beginning of the game. It's only as we click a mouse. And then we are drawing the bullet list. We need to make sure we have that in our game. In fact, let's go and grab these things and put them in. So self.bulletlist equals arcade.spritelist. Grab that, Control C, back into our game. And we were in the setup, not the init. I like to keep things all together. So the sprite lists, that's another sprite list there. And then in the draw function, we need to draw the bullet list. So whenever we make a sprite list, probably we're going to draw it as well, because that's kind of the point of sprites. So playerlist.draw, spritelist.draw. Let's do a little bit more tidying while we're here. That little distance counter at the bottom of the screen is pretty useless to me, and also the camera, we're not using the camera anymore. So just in the interest of keeping things neat and tidy, let's rip that out. Isn't there some other stuff up in the init to do with camera? Yeah, don't think that is relevant to us anymore either. I think that's pretty much all. It's actually really good, just Control Z on this code. It's actually a really nice little feature. That you can have kind of multiple layers, as it were. So it says we scroll the sprite world, but not the GUI, and that was in that other code. You can keep that in your memory. You may want to do that at some point in the future. Where were we? We were getting the bullets to work. So back into this, we've created a sprite list. We're drawing the sprite list, and then we need to make a bullet actually happen. So play sound self.gun sound. I think there's a bit of setup around that. Where's the gun sound happening? There we go. We've got a gun sound right there. Let's not bother with that just yet. That's just like an extra feature. I always think it's important to get things working first and then make the kind of bonus features work. So I think we're going to take this, which is creating the sprite. This is giving it an angle. We'll come back to that. This is a bullet speed. Notice there's a constant there. That's worth remembering. And we're appending to a bullet list. So we'll copy all of that lot, and then we've got to decide where to put it in our code. So that's a key skill in itself. So we're not going to do it on mouse press. I'm going to do it on when they press a button, which we already have an on press a button, on key press right here. We've got up, left, and right. So let's do another one. Elif, and copying the format of what we've got above, equals arcade.key.space, I'm going to guess. Could be wrong. Be easy to look that up if it doesn't work. I'm going to kind of guess that it probably does work. And of course, by pasting, automatically indentation is wrong. It is giving us a clue there. It's underlined and it says expected indented block. So that's a clue. Every time you paste something from one program to another, you can pretty much guarantee the indentation will need some tweaking. So it looks to me like all of that, tab that in, and I think we resolved that issue. Yeah, the underscore has gone away. It's also underlined here bullet speed. Remember I mentioned that we've got an issue there that the bullet speed is a constant, and I don't think we're going to have that constant here because this by default didn't have bullets in it. So let's just see what we've got. Bullet speed equals 5. I also saw there's sprite scaling laser 0.8. I'm going to log that in my mind. So control C bullet speed equals 5. Back to my game, into the constants. Again, this is a really normal kind of thing, is that we have a variety of constants being used in different examples, and we just need to look out for that. So I'm going to take this camera speed out because that's something we don't use anymore, and I'm going to be neat and tidy and put my comment in. It's pretty obvious. It's a pretty pointless comment, to be honest, bullet speed, when it says bullet speed right underneath. Anyway, whatever. There was a sprite scaling laser as well. And that was the value 0.8. I'm just going to throw in 0.8 here for now. We can change that later and just see what happens. That may work to begin with. So where were we? Yep, hit play, check that works. May not. We know that the bullet is not going to be correct. Oops. No object attribute camera sprites. So what line was this? It's me ripping out the camera stuff. Trying to do two things at once. You shouldn't do it. Don't follow my example. It says the 117, line 117, there's an issue with the camera sprites. And that's all to do with that camera stuff. Yeah, you should only do one thing at a time. Otherwise, you're giving yourself more work to do. Terrible modeling by me there. Let's go again. Waiting for it to load. Okay, so if I hit the space bar, that's good, isn't it? So as we might expect, it's partially working. We are definitely spawning a bullet sprite when I hit the space key. So that's two things which are working, the spawning and the space key. Actually, three things, because it's drawing them as well. It's not moving them. Let's go and have a look at what's going on. So yeah, this, again, typical for copying and pasting code from somewhere else. It kind of works and then kind of doesn't, and you need to work out what doesn't. Having kind of been here before, I'm aware that here I've done the bullet.change y equals bullet speed, but I'm not updating the bullet list. So in on update, where's on update gone? On update, I'm updating the physics engine, but I'm not updating the bullet list. Self.bullet list. Is it not going to autocomplete for me? It is. Dot update. So that will make them actually move. Double check that. But again, they're going to be going straight up, and we don't want that. I want to be able to shoot side to side in this particular game that I have in mind. So spacebar, yeah, that's fixed that issue. Let's go back to when we spawn the bullet, because that's probably going to make the difference. Bullet.change y equals bullet speed. Let's make it bullet.change x instead. So that's going to make it, instead of the y coordinates being modified by the update function, the x coordinates being modified. So that's going to work. Also, I noticed the bullet.angle. That's the not the angle that it is moving at, but that's the angle that is displayed at. And the way it works is 0 degrees is kind of off to the right. What's that? East. Is that right? East, yeah. And as you go round, so 90 degrees will be, I think it goes clockwise, I can't remember. You can always work it out for yourself. So if we change that from 90 to 0, I think that will look a little bit better. Then the last bit is going to be that it only shoots right. Let's just check that is the case. So here's me, and I can shoot that way. Not sure I love that it's appearing at the top of my head. We can tweak that as well, because it sets the bullet.centerX to be the player.sprite.centerX, but the bullet.bottom is the self.player.sprite.top. It may be better if we did it as .centerY, so it's not coming out of the top of my head. Okay. I want it to shoot left and right depending on which way I've just pressed my key. So if I'm doing left arrow, it modifies the direction. So the bullet speed being positive sends it off to the right, and if it was negative, it would send it off to the left. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it that this bullet.changeX knows about the current direction of the player. And I'm going to have a variable to do that. So this is pretty common idea. We need one part of the program to know about a different part of the program. So just scrolling through, this part of the program needs to know which key was most recently pressed, the left key or the right key. And we're going to use a variable to do that. So I'm going to set the variable up right in the beginning. So we've got this self.gameover equals false. That's one of the kind of variables that lets the game know whether we are, what the state is from somewhere else, I should say. And I'm going to say self.facing right. By default, I'm going to say I'm going to use true. We could just use 1 or 0 or whatever, but I like to use Booleans for this kind of thing. Boolean is a false or true variable. And down here, I'm going to say when we spawn the bullet, if self.facing right equals true, then we do that. And we're going to say else, and I'm going to copy that line, Control C and Control V, minus bullet speed. Now we haven't modified the self.facing right variable yet, but that's going to happen right here. So if the arcade key left is pressed, then self.left equals true. That's being used for the modification. But we're also going to say self.facing right equals false, and just copying that line, Control C, and if we press the right key, Control V, equals true. So these are now modifying that variable, self.facing right equals true and false, and this is inspecting that variable. So this is what I'm saying about we're using a variable to find out the state of the current game. Are we facing left or facing right? Control S, let's run that, see what we've broken. Always the case, you expect something to be broken when you've just put a bunch of new code in. I'm ready. Okay, so I'm facing left, facing right, so hit spacebar, shoots that way, spacebar face. I noticed that the laser looks correct going that way, it doesn't look right going that way, so that's a tweak that you can make for yourself. But yep, we're basically correct there. I will just point out one thing here. If you're doing neat programming style, self.facing right equals true, we're evaluating this expression as whether it's true or false. So a neat programmer actually typically won't bother with the equals true, because self.facing right is actually either true or false in itself. So that's just a neatness thing. What I had before wasn't wrong, it just wasn't tidy. And the last thing I want to mention is that we haven't looked at any of the collision stuff yet. So down in the update function, apart from doing the self.bulletlist.update, which we added in, there's also this stuff to check whether the bullets have hit stuff. So what you can see is it's looping through every bullet in the bullet list and then doing a check for collisions and then doing stuff. So that's definitely something that you can be thinking about doing next.